Ed Lynch, Surfing Baseball. I'm with my partner, Bob Nightengale, down in Nashville at the winter meetings. How's it going, Bob?
Yeah, doing good. Not much action so far. Been busy, but not any major news yet.
I know it's always that way. It seems like that way over the years that, everybody's waiting for the big signings to come through. The big three: Shohei Ohtani, Yoshinobu Yamamoto. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, and Blake Snell are the big three. But, the agents are very wary, as you know. Nobody really wants to go out there. I mean, if you have a guy like Ohtani or Yamamoto, it doesn't really matter what other people are doing, but you want to make sure you don't sign your guy early and then somebody comes in ahead of him who they perceive to be not as good. Do you still feel that's kind of like putting a damper on things? Things are slowing down a little bit?
Well, I think Yamamoto for sure. I don't think there's any way that, Blake Snell is going to sign before him because, there's Scott Boras and Blake Snell. You're going to piggyback off Yamamoto. In Ohtani's case, it's like, okay, if you get Ohtani, you're not going to get Yamamoto. You're not going to get Snell. So it's almost like, not only down to a few teams now in the Ohtani sweepstakes, but, they got to hold other teams off or hold other free agents off, even trades, saying, let's see if we can get this guy first.
Dave Roberts, as you and I both know, we know him personally. I mean, he's one of the finest human beings in our game. Do you think him being so honest has kind of done some damage to those negotiations or no?
No, I don't think so. I mean, just being honest, I can't believe they, Dodgers got upset with him. It's so silly. All he said was they met, and there's other teams that met with him too. How much they liked him. The meeting went well. It wasn't like he was divulging, negotiations or anything like that.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking more on the Ohtani side. I think someone said that he's, a pretty private person and really doesn't want to have this thing play out in the court of public opinion. You find that to be true?
Yeah, he's just a quiet guy. I mean, that's why he's opposite of Yamamoto. Yamamoto loves a spotlight. He wants a bright lights, everything else. That's why I think Yamamoto's going to Yankees. I won't rule out the Mets or the Dodgers, one of those three teams. But Ohtani, it's like in Anaheim. I mean, he lives there in I'm trying to think of the town, but just a private life. Never goes out to eat. Real homebody, and so he doesn't like the limelight. He doesn't want people to know anything about him.
Well, I think the feeling is in the game, and I know this a little bit personally for all my years with the Mets, but I mean, if Yamamoto wants to play, he doesn't mind the big bright lights, and he doesn't mind pitching in New York, which it sounds like he doesn't mind and might even, want that. I can't believe anybody's going to outbid Steve Cohen. I just find that hard to believe. So, I mean, if he wants to play if he doesn't mind playing in New York or wants to play in New York, if you get in a bidding war with Steve Cohen, I think you're going to lose. Do you think I'm incorrect in that assumption?
No, you're right about that, Ed. The only thing I wonder is just the star power of the Yankees compared to the Mets. It's a little bit like Dodgers, Angels, Cubs, White Sox. So I'm with you. Cohen will outbid Steinbrenner, but I just wonder if just the Yankee pinstripes will allure him as far as just that market, everything else.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, the Yankees are an international team. They're known worldwide, and the Dodgers are known worldwide. So it'd be hard if the numbers are close and he had to choose Yamamoto. I'm sure the Yankees might have an edge there. I saw my good buddy, not my good buddy, but somebody I work for, Perry Manassian, came out and said that he is not going to trade Mike Trout. I mean, I know what he's trying to do. I mean, that's like the Pirates coming out and saying they're not going to sign Ohtani. It's just, he's 32 years old. He's got 7 years left on his contract. He's had a litany of injuries. He's got a full no trade. I'm just thinking he probably did that to show the world how much they cherish Mike Trout, and he didn't want any doubt left on the table that they're not going to trade him. Do you get that feel that was the reason for that announcement?
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line is he's got a full no trade, like you said, Ed, and Trout doesn't want to leave. If Trout wanted out, hey, they would trade him. They would get some that money off the books. There was no way they could trade him without eating some of that money, maybe a significant portion, because of all the injuries over the years. But yeah, it's just, acting like, hey, we really want him. Well, if you want it out, then say, okay, let's do it. Let's get some of this money off the books. But, he has no interest in leaving. so they can spin it this way and say, well, yeah, we want you, and we don't mind paying you the $35 a year.
Well, that's something else. It's funny. I see. It's been a while since I was a general manager, but one thing I would never do is I would come out and say a player that's under contract that I have control over, hey, we're going to trade this guy and we want to get some pitching in return. I saw that announcement by the Cardinals and Tyler O'Neill. I don't know why you would make that announcement. I don't know if you're making that announcement for a blogger in Wichita. I mean, why? Why make that public announcement? I mean, I was a player, and players as well as I know players. I mean, I don't know what could possibly be, and I'm not picking on the Cardinals, but I mean, everybody seems to be doing that now, and that's a new trend. And back in the day, the commissioner might have something to say about that. It's like a player saying, "Oh, I got 2 years left on my contract. When it's over, I want to play for the Yankees," or it's kind of like reverse tampering. But that seems to be kind of common now, isn't it?
Well, I mean, it's just strange. Like you said, it has one thing to let everybody know that, hey, this guy's available. It's another thing to embarrass them. Like, okay, we want to trade him. Is anybody want him? Raise your hand. And if they can't trade him, then they're stuck. I mean, imagine this guy coming to spring training, knowing that your own general manager is telling everybody to please trade for him, but they couldn't get a taker.
Exactly. And I think there's probably a little disconnect between the guys that are running these clubs and the players. These are people. These aren't Stratomatic cards, and I find it hard to believe that kind of thing would happen, but it does, and it's pretty common. The other guys of note, Cody Bellinger, boy, this guy was something else. I think he was Rookie of the Year and then MVP. And then he got into this habit of trying to hit the ball out of the park, the so-called quote unquote launch angle. His approach became almost an uppercut thing, swing as hard as he could. Last year, I watched some of its at-bats. He kind of leveled off his swing, trying to use the whole field, all the things he was good at. Do you think those couple of bad years are going to have a damper on somebody taking a chance on him on a long-term deal, like he might, regress back to that approach where he's swinging straight up, his strikeouts went off the chart, his on-base percentage went down, his batting average suffered? Or do you think this guy's a legitimate multi-year contract for a contending club?
I mean, right now he's asking for almost $300 million. He's not going to get that. But you're right. I would think that teams would be, leery. Which Cody Bellinger going to get? He'll say, and Scott Boras will say, well, he was injured in that time. That's the only reason he struggled. Other people will say, well, he got in bad habits. He got lazy. So, what Cody Bellinger going to get? So I think it's a real concern. I mean, you're going to have about a couple teams involved with the money like that. If the Yankees can't get Soto, I can see the Yankees being there. If the Giants don't get, Ohtani, I think Bellinger can end up there. Seattle's saving money. Could he end up there? But yeah, there's only the Cubs obviously could return, but it's only like 3 or 4 spots for this guy.
Yeah, San Diego's an interesting situation here, and Bob Melvin left. AJ Preller seems to be in charge. They lost their owner to cancer. What were they going forward? I mean, are they cutting payroll? I worked in San Diego and for 3 years, and the old saying is it's on an island. You've got the Pacific Ocean to the west, you got the desert to the east, you got Mexico to the south, and you got the 900-pound gorilla to the north, the LA Dodgers. And they're just not going to generate the revenue, especially in the TV contract, to support that the payroll that they had this year. Do you sense that maybe new ownership is going to come in there and say, listen, we can't support this payroll, we're going to have to trim? Is that the feeling you're getting, or are they just going to try to keep plowing forward with the same philosophy?
No, they're definitely slashing payroll, Ed. It was like 260 last year. They went down about 200. So they're letting Blake Snell walk. They're letting Josh Hader walk. Waka's leaving. They're that's why I think they have no choice but to trade Juan Soto. They have no pitching. They've lost 5-6 pitchers. I think they've lost almost 700 innings worth of pitchers. So they need pitching back from the Yankees or maybe the Blue Jays. If he doesn't work out, trade with the Yankees. But they're a mess. I mean, they're going to be plugging in spots for like 3 spots in that rotation. and hoping to survive in the NL West, where the Dodgers are making moves, and here the Giants trying to make a splash. The Diamondbacks, of course, have gotten better after what they did last year. So and then there's several GMs that told me, even if they want to rebuild, how are you going to rebuild? I mean, no one's going to take on those contracts. Possibly Tatis, at least most of it, but not the other guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And, people think it's easy to move those contracts and forget about getting players in return, because the contract itself is more than enough consideration. I mean, just take the contract, and then, and that's where, financial wherewithal really pays off, like in New York with Steve Cohen. I mean, people think, well, he has a lot of money, he can outbid everybody on free agents, but it also allows you to make deals for players. You get a very, very good player with a very, very bad contract, and you can absorb that contract, not give up anything up in terms of players. And that's the real hidden strength of having financial power in this industry. Do you agree with that assessment?
Oh, absolutely. They made a couple of moves this, when they dropped off Verlander, and when they dropped off Scherzer, they ate half those contracts. So it's about $43 million in total. But they got prospects back in return. And even, a few years ago, when they made the Robinson Cano trade and got, Diaz as well, in return, they had to take on Robinson Cano. So they ate that money, and then they got Edwin Diaz, out of it, who was, of course, one of the top relievers in all of baseball.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And, the market for starting pitchers, it just amazes me. Why, everybody's looking for veteran starting pitching. And I've said this 100 times, you're never going to win in Major League Baseball without veteran starting pitchers, because young pitchers, number one, they're unreliable. They're still learning their way. Number two, they have a tendency to get injured. Number three, you have to limit their innings. So, when you have starting pitchers out there that are veterans and they're eating up innings, their value, look at the signings for Sonny Gray and Aaron Nola. It seems to be like $25 million a year for guys that are averaging 6 innings or less a start. And it just seems to me that going forward as an industry, I would have to think that teams are going to say, well, we need to develop these guys in the minor leagues, have them pitch every 5th day, let them stretch it out, and then they get to the big leagues, we'll work from there. But, the one thing you can't trade for, what's very hard to trade for, is giving up a position player and getting a qualified every 5th day starting pitcher. So the market seems to be set at 25 AAV for some of these guys, Sonny Gray and Aaron Nola, Eduardo Rodriguez, Marcus Stroman, Lucas Giolito, and Jordan Montgomery seem to be the big names. Any action on those guys so far?
No, I would think the Rangers would bring back Montgomery. I mean, this guy's a stud. He pitched in New York, was great pitching St. Louis, fabulous, of course, Texas. Giolito's market isn't like that. I mean, he's probably going to get maybe a 2-year deal, $30 million or something like that. He struggled so bad the second half. We'll see what he does. Of course, Snell will get his money, but just nobody develops pitching anymore. John Smoltz told me a couple of years ago, Ed. He goes, "What's the record in baseball will never be broken. The greatest record in baseball." So I threw out the usual, Cy Young and all that kind of stuff. He says, "No, Greg Maddux threw 27 complete games in the minor leagues, never be touched again." I said, "You're right. You're right."
That's right.
Yeah,
that's
they
right.
bring those guys. I know baseball, they dropped down to 13-man pitching staff. I think they want to go down to 12-man in about a year and force these organizations to make sure you develop starters, that they go at least 6 innings and not, bullpen games, because they'll blow those bullpen games out.
There's no doubt. I mean, the bridge from the starting pitcher to the closer is getting bigger and bigger. And, you have to pay the starters. Now they have to pay the relievers because they need them. They can't get through games without those relievers every game, 7 days a week. Guys are winning Cy Young awards. I don't think Blake Snell has ever had a complete game in his career. And this is a guy that's, one of the top pitchers in the game. So, I agree with you. They need to start developing some of these starting pitchers and lower at the minor league level.
Yeah, here's a stat for you, Ed, on Blake Snell. So he wins the Cy Young award going away. The amount of times this year he actually threw a single pitch in the 6th inning, only 3 times.
That's hard to believe. That is really hard to believe.
Yeah.
I mean, Sonny Gray averaged about 5 2/3 innings pitched per start all year long, and you have to pay those guys more and more and more. So something's got to change in the way we develop pitchers, and just for not. And I'm not trying to be like an old time dinosaur or anything like that, but just for their financial wherewithal. I mean, these starters need to eat up innings, and then you don't have to pay so many relievers so much money because they're in there 7 days a week.
Yeah, and and people don't want to see all these bullpen games. I know when San Francisco, I think the owner, Greg Johnson, kind of jumped on the front office and, hey, enough of the platoons, enough of the bullpen games. Fans want to see a starter. They want to see that name in the paper. So, okay, I get to watch this guy pitch. Not seeing some reliever go 2 innings and throw 6 guys, 6 different guys out that you never heard of.
Yeah, and it takes time, and I think, some of the rule changes that were made, facing you have to face 3 hitters as a reliever. I was dead against a lot of these rule changes, but now I realize, like shifts, I thought, why are we changing the rules to help guys with bad approaches? They can't hit the ball to the other side of the field. But now I realize we have to protect the game from some of these guys that will never make an adjustment. And I think, outlawing shifts, certainly the pitch clock has changed the course of the game, made the game much more watchable. And so, it's too bad that we have to massage the rules to help people that have bad approaches at the plate and on the mound. So hopefully going forward, things will change.
Yeah, just, get baseball back to where it was, particularly the pitching wise. It's kind of just sad to see what's going on. A guy like Sonny Gray, he got paid that much money because at least he'll give you innings. He's got doesn't have the strikeout stuff, but he'll give you innings. A Lance Lynn gives you innings. Kyle Gibson gives you innings. So the Cardinals make good moves there by just getting guys so they don't have to rely on that bullpen night after night.
I agree with you. So I went to the winter meetings there several years ago, and I remember being there for like 4 or 5 days, and I never left the hotel. I never got outside for 4 days. And for people that don't know, it's about 100-acre dome, and it's self-contained. You have everything there: restaurants, nightclubs, you name it. And have you gotten out of the building yet since you've been there?
No, the only time we went out was on Saturday. So we went with Dave Stewart, obviously, and he showed me around Nashville as far as seeing the expansion site for a Nashville baseball team. He hopes in the next 5 or 6 years. He's spearheading the event, but that's so I got back on a Saturday night to the hotel. I have not sniffed any fresh air since. I think I've been lost 17 times in my 3 days.
I know. It's funny. Back in the day, we say, okay, we're going to go meet the Rangers, or we're going to meet the I was with the Cubs, but meet the Yankees. Okay, they're in room 1-247. And we would wander around for hours looking for these different rooms. But, I heard from Jerry Reinsdorf the other day that teams just don't meet face-to-face anymore. They just, a lot of it's done, texting and emailing. And, the old days, we used to go and pile in each other's suite and, hammer it out for a few hours. You find that still the case, or are teams doing most of these things over social media or texting or emailing?
Yeah, mostly texting. A few GMs have said, the winter meetings are kind of silly. It's just 3 days. It could be 3 days anywhere. They've even shortened it by a day now, where it ends on Wednesdays. But yeah, and it's only been 5 weeks since the World Series ended. But yeah, that's why there's been no activity going on. Yeah, you're right, Ed. Like back in the day, people would be sitting in suites for hours and that sort of thing. You talk about trades until 2, 3 in the morning. I think now some teams get together a little bit, but yeah, it's amazing how many trades are done without anybody talking face to face, let alone even on the phone.
Yeah, I think that's right. And good luck the rest of the way. I hope there's something down there that made it worth your while to travel across the country. Both Bob and I live in Scottsdale, Arizona, and going down to Nashville and just hoping something gets done. What's your feeling on Ohtani? You think somebody's close? Will they wait to announce something, or think anything's imminent?
No, nothing's imminent. They're not close. I heard going into it that it's not going to be done here. It's not. I think, Ed, we're down to just a couple teams. I think it's the Dodgers and your old team, Toronto Blue Jays. The Angels they haven't been told no. The Giants are still in the mix, but that's it. But no, I don't think they're close at all on Ohtani. I still think he's a good, sometime the next week, next 5-7 days, I think that'll happen. Then Yamamoto will sign. Then I think we'll see a flurry of activity, right when we're having our Christmas dinner.
Yeah, people don't realize the financial wherewithal that the Toronto Blue Jays have, the Rogers Corporation. They're a monster, and they have as much money as anybody, maybe more than anybody. And it's just a matter if they want to spend it or not. And Ohtani would be a major acquisition for them, and he would be like the king of Canada if he went up there and played. So it'll be interesting to see. The Dodgers may have a little competition there, and we'll see where it comes. So thanks a lot, Bob. I hope we'll try to check in again before you leave, and I hope something happens.
Yeah, me too. If not, I'll see you in Scottsdale in a few days. My pleasure.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Bob.
Thanks, Ed.